Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and explore those weird, highly specific emotions you definitely experience every single day, but absolutely don't have a name for. To really wrap our heads around this, we're going to take a journey straight through the deep, intricate maze of human psychology. Have you ever just had a sudden wash of emotion or a bizarre sense of isolation and the English language just totally fails you? Well, you're not alone. By the time we wrap this up, we're going to put exact names to those fleeting, kind of unsettling sensations that make us human. Let's kick things off with how we perceive the billions of people walking around us. Picture this. You're sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic. You glance over at the person in the car next to you. Maybe they're just tapping their fingers on the steering wheel, and boom, it suddenly hits you. They are the main character of a story that is just as long and just as complicated as your own. This is called Sonder. It sounds super obvious when you say it out loud, but actually feeling the weight of it? Totally different story.
Think about it. That random driver has a whole childhood, a unique set of weird fears, maybe an argument they've been replaying in their head all week. And you? You're just going to drive away and never know a single detail about them. This feeling usually hits the absolute hardest in super crowded places, like airports or busy streets, where your brain literally tries to grasp the massive scale of humanity, that every face is a complete universe, and then basically just gives up.
Okay, now let's talk about that wild, completely unhinged phase where you've maybe had two real conversations with someone, but you are checking your phone constantly. Your brain basically short circuits. You've thought about them an honestly embarrassing number of times today. Well, there's a name for that. It's limerence. And the difference here is really stark. A regular crush is just, casually liking someone. But limerence, which was studied and named by psychologist Dorothy Tenevo back in the 70s, is completely involuntary. You aren't choosing to obsess over them. Your brain is just looping, entirely focused on figuring out one single thing. Do they actually like you back? Ironically, the moment that uncertainty vanishes, the feeling itself usually fades away. Moving on from people to physical spaces. Have you ever walked into a school during the dead of summer break? Or maybe a massive stadium an hour after the game ends when there are just empty cups rolling around on the floor? Standing alone in a massive space that's meant for thousands of people gives you this deeply eerie, almost ghost town vibe. That is Kenopsia. See, if you didn't know the place was supposed to be packed, it would just be a boring, empty room. But because you know what the space should look like, that gap creates something genuinely strange. The emptiness actually has this heavy texture to it. It's kind of like stumbling onto an abandoned social media profile of someone who hasn't posted in years. The structure is all still there, but the life is just gone. Now, on the complete flip side of creepy, empty spaces, we have chrysalism. Named after a butterfly's chrysalis, or cocoon, it's that absolute, flawless feeling of being perfectly sealed off from the demands of the world. Picture being safely wrapped up in a warm blanket while a massive thunderstorm rages outside. The whole secret here is the contrast. When it's properly pouring out there, like loud enough to hear, bad enough that going outside would be completely miserable, and you're just warm inside with literally nowhere to be, something magical shifts. The chaos of the weather outside is exactly what gives you permission to just safely exist right where you are. I mean, it's exactly why so many of us will literally crack a window open just to hear the rain better. Let's transition to another physical space and see how this builds into something called velature. If you've ever stepped foot in a used bookshop, you immediately know it has a very specific vibe. And no, it's not just the smell of old paper, though that's definitely a huge part of it. It's that quiet, slightly sad atmosphere you feel when you're totally surrounded by objects that have already lived previous lives.
Think about it. Every single book on those shelves was bought, maybe read cover to cover, or maybe just abandoned on a nightstand. You'll find old receipts used as bookmarks, words underlined that meant the absolute world to a total stranger at the time. It's this soft melancholy, a gentle reminder that time just passes, things change hands, and the world is absolutely packed with these tiny hidden histories just waiting to be discovered.
Now, as we zoom out to our relationship with time itself, we run into a concept that English doesn't even have a word for. We actually have to borrow from Welsh to find hiraeth. This goes way beyond your standard nostalgia. It's missing a place or a specific feeling, like your old childhood neighborhood or some endless summer, that simply doesn't exist anymore. And the hardest part about hiraeth, even if the physical location is still right there, the actual essence of what you're missing is gone forever. You can drive back to your old street, sure, but it just won't be the same. There is a real profound grief to it, even though technically nothing bad happened. Things just naturally moved on, and they left a permanent gap right where hiraeth lives. Okay, question for you. Have you ever watched some old 1970s footage with those washed-out colors or flipped through vintage photographs and felt this deep, pulling longing for a time you never actually lived through? Logically, this makes absolutely zero sense. You have no memories of it. Yet the feeling is incredibly common. We call this anemoia.
So why does this happen? Well, unlike regular nostalgia, anemoia actually plays a trick on you. Old media only ever kept the highlight reel, right? The celebrations, the nice photos, the warm aesthetics. You aren't seeing the boring or hard struggles of daily life back then. Which means what you're really longing for isn't the actual past at all. It's just a projected sense of simplicity that the past represents to you now.
Let's shift gears. Imagine walking into a crowded room. We've all been at a party or a networking event where everyone is just flowing nicely, you're smiling, you're chatting, but your frequency just doesn't quite match the room. You aren't exactly unwelcome, but you feel like a puzzle piece being forced into the completely wrong puzzle. That low-level, constant hum of not fitting in, that is monocopsis.
And it's really important to note that this isn't just social anxiety or being shy, because it doesn't magically vanish when you warm up to people. It's a constant, underlying search for a place where you finally don't feel that gap. People experiencing monocopsis spend a huge chunk of their lives subconsciously hunting for that one magical room where fitting in is finally perfectly effortless.
Leave it to the German language to perfectly capture this next one with absolute surgical precision. Mauerbauertraurigkeit. It translates literally to the wall builder sadness. It happens when a good friend or family member reaches out. They haven't done a single thing wrong, but something inside you just involuntarily closes up. It's as if you're hastily stacking bricks to build a massive wall right around yourself.
You make an excuse, you put them off, and then you just sit there, alone. It feels so much more like a physical reflex than a conscious choice, and it leaves you with a very specific self-inflicted isolation. And honestly, that is the worst part. It's a deep loneliness that you can't even complain about to anyone because, well, you're the one who actively created it.
Right, let's zoom out now to the absolute widest lens possible. Just consider this number for a second. 8 billion. There are 8 billion people on Earth right now, all doing something, all living a full life, on a tiny rock floating in a universe so incomprehensibly massive that numbers basically just lose all meaning. Having this sudden and sometimes really uncomfortable realization is called oculism. You are one single person existing in a microscopic window of human history that goes back billions of years. Yet somehow, that wildly awkward thing you said to your boss last Thursday is currently taking up your entire brain. For some people, oculism is super freeing. Nothing matters. But for others, it's downright terrifying. Which leads us perfectly into our final concept today, onism. This is the quiet, heavy realization that you only get one body, one single timeline, and one finite sequence of days. At some point, the reality that you can literally only be in one place at a time becomes very, very real to you.
Think about it like this. Every single choice you make is, at the exact same time, a choice not to make 100 other choices. The life you are building right now is being built at the direct, undeniable cost of every single other version of yourself you could have been. The cities you didn't move to, the careers you didn't pursue. Onism is the profound frustration of missing out on the rest of the universe simply by existing right here.
And let's be totally honest, the internet has magnified this to an absolute extreme. You have unprecedented one-click access to millions of endless lives you aren't living. You can scroll through a day in the life of someone halfway across the globe right from your couch. It's incredible, sure, but it leaves us with a profound final question to ponder. When you are constantly bombarded by the endless paths you didn't take, how do you find peace and immense gratitude in the one beautiful, singular timeline you actually have?